Your tyres are too narrow and too hard. I'm willing to bet on it.
And you'll be shocked, in a good way, if you actually try what we suggest in this video, because your tyres play a far more important role than upgrading to a fancy carbon frame or wheels.
Now, tyres have been getting wider and wider year on year now. I think it's something that we all know. And whilst for pro riders, this is typically in search of extra speed, wider tyres can have a huge positive impact on comfort, which is great for everyone.
And you can have both speed and comfort, and your choice of tyre and pressure having a bigger impact on your ride quality than any frame design feature or frame material choice. So what is it then that we're actually suggesting you do?
Well, for starters, probably use a lower pressure than you typically do in your tyres, which is a change you can make for absolutely zero cost. Now, the days of pumping up your tyres to the maximum pressure that's written on the sidewall or 120 psi are long gone. Now, depending on your total system weight and your exact wheel and tyre setup, a 28mm tyre is almost never going to need to be pumped up at a pressure any higher than around 85 psi. Now, lighter, smaller riders using a 28mm tyre, perhaps maybe even going to be closer to 60 psi, perhaps even less in some cases.
Exact tyre pressures should be set using reputable information, so manufacturer guidelines from your exact model of tyre, or using online calculators. Now, these calculators will take into account a wide range of information. So first up, the model of tyre you're using, the weight of the entire system, that's you and the bike combined, the actual width of the tyre, not just what it says on the sidewall, but the measured width, because that will change with respect to the internal rim width of the wheels that you use. The surfaces you intend to ride on will have an impact, as will the speed that you typically average and the weather conditions. And the reason for that is to get the best out of your tyres, they need to be at the optimum pressure. So if you have a cheap tyre at the optimum pressure, that will outperform an expensive performance tyre at the wrong pressure. Let that sink in.
Now, for the past 5 or 6 years, I've typically run a 28mm tyre set up tubeless, and usually at the pressure of, say, 65 psi in the rear and 60 in the front, which is actually slightly lower than what you could perhaps consider optimal for my size and bike setup. Now, the reason I've been doing this is because I slightly want to prioritise comfort over speed. Now, if I go racing, I'll just simply use 5 or 10 psi higher to try and claw back a little bit of speed and sacrifice some of that comfort. And in more recent times, I've started to make the switch across to even wider 30mm tyres. This is something that I've gradually been trialling over a longer period of time. And I'm even thinking of moving up to a 32. Now, optimising and fine-tuning my tyre pressures is something that I started doing way back in my racing days when I was racing professionally. And it was crucial to set it up for the surfaces that you're riding on and the weather conditions as well. And it's something I thoroughly urge everyone tries at home, is that you do your own research relative to your setup and then get brave, start lowering those tyre pressures and get experimenting.
But what about tyre width? Well, the first thing to say is that most cyclists stand to gain by going as wide as possible. That is, unless you're focused purely on speed and riding on perfectly smooth surfaces all the time. Now, the great news is that most modern road bikes are now designed to accommodate 32 and even 34mm wide tyres. But if you have an older bike, especially one with rim brakes, then 26 or 28mm might be your limit. The good news, though, is that there are loads of brilliant 26 and 28mm tyres which will offer the same benefits, especially if you're changing from a really narrow 23mm tyre or something even narrower than that. But it is important to take into consideration that the width of the rims that you have will change and affect the width of the tyre once it's fitted and inflated. So most modern tyres are built around being used with 19 or 21mm internal width. If you go wider with your internal width, it will make that tyre sit wider than it would on a narrower rim. So depending on your specific internal rim width, the tyres that you fit may or may not fit inside your bike with enough clearance if you're pushing it right up to the limit.
In terms of different tyre types and constructions, we've got three main characteristics which manufacturers are trying to prioritise in different proportions. You've got speed, comfort and puncture protection. Now the most important thing to consider here is that it's simply impossible to have the best of all three. That's just a fact and a matter of life. However, the way that brands go around helping you identify what type of tyre and product is suitable for you is through using a target graph. And you can think of it like as you move the target closer to one characteristic, because you want to prioritise that more, you've got to bear in mind that you're likely to be sacrificing in one of the other areas. Tyres which prioritise puncture protection will often be considered a little bit on the slow side. This is due to their construction being thicker and more rigid. However, tyres which prioritise speed will often be comfortable. This is down to their construction being thinner and more flexible, allowing them to deform easily over the bumps, which is great news for everybody. Now you can tweak and fine-tune these characteristics somewhat by adjusting your tyre pressures. However, it's important to note that you can improve the comfort of a very puncture-proof tyre by dropping the pressure, but there will be a very noticeable loss in speed.
You might be watching this and thinking to yourself, well, that's all well and good, but I'm not bothered about speed or racing. But we would say, well, that may be so, but maybe you would be bothered about speed if it meant that your commute was 5 minutes shorter than it normally is. Or maybe you're someone who's just struggling a bit and, perhaps getting dropped by your mates on the weekend group ride.
So what's the key message I'm trying to get across here? Well, it's super simple. It's just that wider tyres at lower pressures are hands down the most effective and cost-effective way of upgrading and improving the performance of your bike. Not just because I say so,
but because, well, science and research and independent data says so. There's a huge amount of this that's been performed and, well, the evidence is overwhelming. In terms of sort of bang for buck, if you're wanting to improve your comfort, your grip and your speed, then changing your tyres and getting the pressure right is going to have a bigger impact than pretty much any other component change you can make.
Right, hope you enjoyed hearing some cost-effective ways on how to really improve the performance and comfort that you get from your bike.
Yeah, really keen to hear your thoughts as well and your experiences of tyre pressure and how you've been able to use it to improve your riding. So let us know in the comments. And also, why not share this with that one friend we all seem to have that insists on riding super skinny tyres at 1,000,000 PSI, because that's the way they've always done it. And if you'd like to support what we do so that we can continue to make videos like this for you for free, then, well, please subscribe. See you in the next one. Love you, bye.